Hey guys, it is my first run back in the United States. I spent 16-ish days in England and in Scotland, traveling with my family and my best friend and her family, and I'm feeling pretty tired, but we're gonna do this run. I was thinking about how I was able to maintain my consistency and training plan while traveling to two different countries, and also while rehabbing my ankle injury that I sustained back in May. So come with me while I see if I can run while jet lagged, and I'll talk about how I was able to train in other countries. Okay, and we are running. Hopefully the camera's not too joggly. So first things first, to maintain your consistency while you're traveling, just look ahead at the plan you're following, or if you're very fortunate, like I am, let your coach know, yes, I have a coach, your travel plans far enough in advance, and then let them know that, like, you'll either be walking or hiking. So I let him know that when we were in London, we weren't going to have a car and we're likely to be walking everywhere. And then let him know what hikes we plan to do on what dates. And then he was able to program my runs in based off of my itinerary. And then since he knows my injury history and where I'm at in my rehab, he made sure that it was in line with the rehab plan. And then I am training up for Javelina 100K, so he also made sure that it was in line for that. So by the time I landed in London, I had my plan already in my email for when I was traveling. So that's my step number one. Look ahead in your plan and try to pencil in all of your obligations, and then fit your run days or your workouts around your planned itinerary. Okay, my step number two is know before you go. So you've planned your trip, you let your coach or yourself know if you're self-coach, self-planned. And next, look at where you're staying. So my friend and I, when we booked all of our lodging, we made sure that we were near green spaces that I would like to run. We looked them up online, looked up the location of the hotel. In London, we looked up the proximity to the tube station and made our choices that way. I also communicated with my husband that I would be running, and so that way he could anticipate me going on these runs in the morning. I do all of my runs mostly alone, and so just letting him know that that was still my intention. And then he was able to also look up more areas for me before we went. So when I landed, I had my plan, and then I had a general idea of areas that I'd like to be running, close proximity to where we were going to be staying. So that's step number two. Okay, so I decided to do step number three in the house because I was getting a little winded on the run, and I felt like this is probably one of the more important steps. Theo, it's my cat. Theo. Step number three is probably one of the most important, and it's how to find safe places to run. I understand that I have quite a bit of privilege. I am white and I identify as female, and for the most part, it is safe where I choose to run. And when we were traveling, it was also safe for me to run there. I understand that some people might not be as fortunate or privileged. So
take that for what it is, and then use these steps as kind of a jumping off point, if you will, for finding your own safe areas to run. Always go with your gut. If you feel like something's not safe or doesn't feel right, just turn around and go back, or don't go at all. And then always tell somebody where you're running, so that way if you don't return, they know where to start looking for you. Okay, so the first option for finding a safe place to run, or just a running route while you're traveling, is through the Strava app. If you have Strava, looks like this. It's orange. We're stealing my husband's phone so that way we can do this. So first, close that out. So you open your Strava app, your homepage, and you go down here to Maps, and then you can type in your location. I have his location turned off right now because I didn't want you guys to see my house. But let's type in London, since that's where we stayed. And you type that in, give it a minute to load, and it'll show all of these trails. This is routes that people have flagged as running routes or even walking routes. And then next, you can look for areas that you're already familiar with from your previous searches, like in step 1. So for example, we knew we were staying near Hyde Park, which is near Kensington, which is this area. So I can zoom in and see, oh, there's Hyde Park right there, and there's a route right around it. You can also pull it out and see other areas. So if you're tired of running around Hyde Park, there's other parks there that you can run along the River Thames, all of that. You can also use this to find trails that you've heard of. So we're going to type in Pitlochry. That's where we stayed one of those days in Scotland, and it had a lot of hiking trails. And see, even somewhere remote will have something that's there. You can zoom in and see where it goes. So that's step number 1, Strava app for route finding. Okay, so if you don't have the Strava app, you can also blow up a big Google map of the area that you're staying and just kind of look for green spaces or walking trails. And then you can also get onto the Reddit forum. It's Reddit, and you can type in their little search bar, areas to run around Edinburgh, areas to run around Inverness, things like that. When I typed in Edinburgh, I actually was able to find 2 maps of different parts of that town where it was safe to run. It was known bike paths, and the people on that forum recommended that area to runners as well. And the third option you can do is go to a local run store and start talking to the people who work there. Say, hey, I'm from out of the area. Where do you like to run? I was very fortunate in that I found a run store when I was in Inverness in Scotland, and I told the woman who was working there, I'm from out of town, out of the country. I have about a 5K that I need to get in for my training. Where should I go for that? I also mentioned to her that I didn't have a car, so it would have to be walking distance from our hotel, and she was able to pull the hotel up on a map for me, and she showed me a really neat running path along the River Ness that included the Ness Islands, and she said that the running club frequently runs there. She also invited me to the running club, and so that's another way to get plugged into community if you're going to be traveling for a long time and you're just missing the community. Get connected at the local run store. Now then, I also want to talk about how to, I guess, feel safe while you're running, or just building that confidence. When you travel, especially if you're traveling on a plane, you can't take the things with you like bear spray, pepper spray, knives. So your kit generally, unless you're traveling for a race or something, but if you're just traveling because you're doing like a pleasurable family trip, your kit is going to be really pared down. So if you're going to be running a lot, you can pick up those items once you get to that country, just knowing that you won't be able to take them back to the United States. But if you're not going to be running in bear country and you know you're going to be running on the roads, you probably don't need bear spray, probably don't need a knife. However, pepper spray is probably recommended. I did not have pepper spray with me when I was running around the UK. I didn't feel like it was needed. However, I do run with that when I run around California. And
okay, hey, it's Editing Sarah. Getting back to that pepper spray bit, you want to make sure that you're also looking up the laws of the country or the town that you're traveling to. You want to make sure that it's not illegal to carry those items. I know some countries it's illegal to carry pepper spray or a knife, so just double check everything that you're allowed to have it. You don't want to end up in a foreign prison.
the thing you need to do is make sure you tell somebody where you are running to. Make sure someone knows when you're going, the route you're going, and what time they can expect you back. When you're traveling, that is not the time to go rogue from your plan. I've been known to do that at home, where I'll say I'm going to do this trail and then spur of the moment I'll switch trails. Don't do that while you're traveling. You need to stick to your plan. And then make sure that you know the route in your head or you have the map. And then trust your instinct. If your stomach is telling you that something doesn't feel right or that person behind you doesn't feel right, you need to just bail and try somewhere else, or don't try. Your safety is always the number one thing. And then if you really cannot be running outside, the weather's bad, there's no routes near you, you don't feel safe, you don't want to run alone and you can't find a friend, a lot of hotels have gyms, they have treadmills, they have bicycles, they have ellipticals. You can always do that. When I first got into London and I was getting over my jet lag, I ran on the treadmill twice in our hotel gym just to get my body used to that movement again after the flight. And that gave me a little bit more time to look up the route to Hyde Park from the hotel. So please don't let the fear of travel or the fear of being alone deter you. I forgot to add that while you're running, especially if you're running by yourself, consider foregoing music or your podcast or your audiobook. You want to make sure that you can hear all around you. Especially in the UK, it was hard for me to get used to the cars driving on the left side of the road. And sometimes if I wasn't paying perfect attention, I would, step off the curb and almost get obliterated. So try to minimize the music. If you have to run with some kind of auditory stimulation, leave one ear completely open so you can hear around you. And then that way you can hear if someone's coming up behind you, or you can hear if there's a car coming when you shouldn't be crossing the street, things like that.
So step number 4 is be prepared for things to not go as planned in terms of your run. So say you still make it out on your run and you get there and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing 3 by 10 minute easy intervals to rehab my ankle. And you get to the trailhead and it's straight up. And so just be prepared that sometimes the trail data you get or the run data you get from locals may not be exactly as what you're expecting. Just know that that's still okay, that time on your feet is time on your feet. And if you don't hit every single workout and you miss 1 or 2, that's totally fine. It's not going to derail your training, and it's not worth the stress. You're running in a beautiful new location. Just take it for what it is. Don't be upset if your run turns into a hike or you get there and it's sketchier than what you thought and you have to turn around. Just, run a second time or just write it off as you tried. So just be flexible. Have fun. Okay, so step number 5 kind of goes along with step number 3 in finding safe places to run. But step number 5 is try to find your community if you're not running, if you don't want to run alone. So runners are pretty easy to find. Kind of like vegans. How do you know you're a vegan or someone's a vegan? Is because they'll tell you. How do you know someone's a runner? Is because they'll tell you. Anyway, so when you get to an area, to know it's safe, you can look to see if there's other runners running about. And then what I accidentally did was I found a run store, and I went in just to poke around, and I ended up talking to the lady who worked there, and she invited me to their run club. Unfortunately, I was not going to be in Inverness during the run club time, so I wasn't able to do it. But things like that, like find a run store, hiking store, ask them about local activities, run groups, ask them about safe places to run, and then look around to see if the run is well traveled. There's also Facebook groups, if any of y'all are still on Facebook, that you can use to connect with other runners in the area. Or you can do what I did and convince your non-running friend to run with you. Anyway, so there's always the runner community is always there. We're pretty friendly, and yeah, don't be afraid to say hi. Okay, I just finished. My body is definitely feeling the jet lag. I had a hard time keeping my heart rate down, and I'm sure you could probably hear it when I was talking and running that I was getting pretty winded, which is not usual for me. Anywho, so I'm gonna walk it out a little bit, probably call my sister, wake her ass up, tell her I'm home, and then yeah, I think I'll end this with some video and photo that I took on my trip. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fabulous day, and if you haven't already, please do something kind for somebody. Talk to you later. I don't know if you can hear me because it's super windy, but I'm trying to get my trail run in. It's not working out too well because it's like super steep, but freaking, I'm in Scotland and I'm on a trail run, and I just found ruins. How cool is that? Just wow, this is somebody's farmland property, but there's right to roam laws in the UK, so you can roam